Philadelphia Eagles may have shockingly beat the New Orleans Saints this past weekend, but at what cost? 1 week after waiving Will Parks, they ended up suffering significant injuries in the secondary. Rodney McLeod tore his ACL, Avonte Maddox is going to miss some time, and Darius Slay on this Friday is still battling concussion protocol, which means, with the game just 2 days away, there's a good chance that Jalen Mills is playing CB1 and Kevyon Seymour is playing CB2. Now, who is Kevyon Seymour, you may ask, hopefully more respectfully than Les Bowen did during the Jim Schwartz press conference? This is what we're here to answer, because the Eagles have a history of finding these absolute steals through the waivers, through the practice squad, and late round draft picks. Let's not forget that at this time of year in 2018, I was singing "Last Christmas I gave you my heart, the very next day you gave it away." This year, to save me from tears, I'll give it to Captain Cre'Von. So today we're going to find out if the Eagles do have another underdog corner on their roster who has a chance of making a splash in the next few games. My name is Liam Jenkins, and this is another episode of Eagles Film Room. Before we get started, guys, as always, it will be amazing if you could leave a like and hit that subscribe button if you enjoy the content, and drop your opinions down below. What are the expectations for Seymour this weekend? If you want to continue the discussion, don't forget you can check out our Flick Sports group chat at PSN Eagles Nation. It's free to join. We have weekly giveaways, contests, fantasy competitions, and so much more. There's a link in the description below. We would love to have you as part of our community. A quick announcement: we will be hosting a live broadcast, a special broadcast this Boxing Day, December 26th, to celebrate everyone at Philly Sports Network, from our writers to our photographers to our podcasters to our incredible community. We want to put you guys in the spotlight, and you can have your say in the awards with a link down in the description below. Takes a few seconds to vote, but we will see you on Boxing Day, December 26th, to try and end this year on a high, bring everyone together, and just celebrate the positives in what has been a very rollercoaster year. So who is Kevyon Seymour? Let's get to know him. He was drafted in the 6th round of 2016 by the Buffalo Bills after spending his career at USC. He's a smaller corner, now standing at 6 foot 185, was drafted at, I believe, 5'8", 186. So whether there's been a brief growth spurt or he's lying in his Tinder bio, he's around 6 foot tall, fitting that Jim Schwartz prototype. Now, what he does have in buckets is a lot of speed, and we're going to get to that. The guy ran a 4.39 40-yard dash, a 6.81 second 3-cone drill, that's a 10'4" broad jump. So the guy clearly outplays his frame from an athletic standpoint. But coming out of college, there were some concerns about ball production. He would often bat balls away but struggled with turnovers, and that continued into the NFL. And after his rookie year, where he ended up failing to register an interception despite having 3 passes defense through 3 starts, what was later found out was that he was actually short-sighted and required contact lenses, so he would often get the ball lost in a haze, or it would appear further away from him than it actually was, which would obviously prompt premature body movements. So with an adjustment made, he was traded to Carolina, and despite a slight increase in terms of passes defense, he still struggled to generate turnovers. With some injuries catching up to him, he was then out of the league after 31 games through those first 2 seasons. He started 5 and then ended up having to just take on a different kind of job to support his family. He's now back in the NFL in a scheme that may or may not suit his skill set. Let's take a closer look here. First thing I want to look at here is special teams. It's something that quite often gets overlooked when looking at cornerbacks, or any player for that matter. Obviously, you've got gunners, and on the opposing side of that, you've got the jammers. So the Saints gunner here is Justin Hardy, recently replaced Patrick Robinson. That would have been a bittersweet pill otherwise for this game. He runs a 4.36 40-yard dash. Now, as we said, 4.39 for number 41 here, who is, of course, Kevyon Seymour. What I want you to watch is just the physicality on this play in pushing him physically off the field. Gets his hand, like, look at that, just refuses to relent, just continues to drive his body into him, and that is just a hell of a play. And it won't show up on a stat sheet or go down into one of the greatest plays of all time, but I just love the hustle here. His second ever snap as a Philadelphia Eagle really showed that speed and technique at the line of scrimmage though, and he's typically known as a zone corner, so I was intrigued to see how this fared. And this is a tough spot to be in if your name is Kevyon Seymour. You're lining up against Michael Thomas, one of the most dominant receivers in the entire NFL. The Saints are going to run a play action look. They want to get their guys deep. You're going to see a bit of motion across the line of scrimmage, which essentially becomes a bit of a wheel route or just a vertical that's almost a decoy to try and take Nickell Robey-Coleman out of the picture. What that's going to leave is a curl route on the outside and an in-breaker over the middle. You're hoping, obviously, that the safety goes one way or the other, and the second route opens up in a slight levels concept. Taysom Hill drops back. We're going to see Michael Thomas try and work an inside release. So to combat this, what we see from Kevyon Seymour is a nice near-hand movement. He gets that backhand on, and instead of trying to turn and run with him and open his hips the other way and allow that inside leverage, he wants the outside. He doesn't want Thomas breaking outside. He wants him inside. He's got Jalen Mills there, and he's got McLeod over the top. So he gets that near hand on, 45-degree hips, turns and goes, just tries to leverage him, disrupt that route. Now Taysom Hill's deep in his progression. You're side by side, and if Hill wants to throw that ball, you're in a triangle, so to speak. Mills can gain depth, McLeod can drop down. There's no sign of breaking here from Thomas, and just as Thomas is going to break on that route, the ball's thrown. Great QB hit by Alex Singleton. It's completed on the curl, but just fantastic coverage here to not turn those hips the other way, to not get swung inside out. He stays physical, wedges inside that hip pocket, and he's just able to carry Thomas downfield. It's not an easy task, boys. Fourth quarter, 1st and 10, ball on the 50, and this time lined up outside. This is a very different look. It looks like cover 3. You're going to see Kevon Wallace actually come down and play the curl and flat, which leaves the vertical, that high end of the field, away for Seymour to deal with, and he wants that outside leverage. So automatically he can see that going. Wallace is going to turn and go, take away the flat, and the second that overlap happens, he's got to run. He's got to close over the top, and this is where these deep strikes used to burn the Eagles, because what we would always see is the safety just come down deep. He would come down and take that crosser. Number 13 is exactly where we would see someone like Malcolm Jenkins or Rodney Cloud just push down. Oddly, Marcus Epps doesn't do that, turns and goes, because the linebackers actually don't bite on this. They don't bite on the play action, which in itself is a big improvement. But this just means that sprinting over the top with safety help, the route's taken away, and that ends up being a dead play for the New Orleans Saints, because on this time, Josh Sweat is able to get home with a little bit of help from his friends, but it all starts just from that speed. You can see where Taysom Hill's looking here. He's looking straight down that field, but over the top, with that speed, with that explosiveness, with that awareness, is Kevyon Seymour. One of the biggest weaknesses of this Eagles defense for quite some time now has been the communication on the back end. The amount of times a safety comes down and a corner's expecting help that's just not there is disgraceful, or vice versa. If the safety bites down expecting a corner to come over. Ronald Darby was a nightmare for that. We all remember that touchdown against the Redskins last year. Or sorry, Washington football team now. There was almost an example here. It was a very, very, very similar concept where the Saints used a little bit of pre-snap motion to try and draw that safety down to the other side of the field. But what happens is that because Nickell Robey-Coleman, number 31 here, is playing Alvin Kamara in man coverage, it's going to release the tight end. So instantly, down comes the safety. And now we're going to see Seymour have to go, right, if that safety's biting down, we know we've got zone on the other side of the field. Jalen Mills playing in his cover 3, that third coverage. We know Marcus Epps is trying to play that curl and flat. So there's no one deep if that safety drops, which he does. Therefore, Seymour uses that speed over the top, closes over the top to take away that slot route. And it sounds so simple, and it's a no play because Taysom Hill takes a check down to the tight end anyway. But it's so important because for someone that has been on this team for such a small amount of time, to understand that responsibility of, right, safety's got that, I've got my eyes on that seam, I've got to get across the field because there's no way Jalen Mills can get it. It's just that extra bit of intelligence and positioning where he doesn't need to make a play on the ball. The speed and the awareness just gets him into a good position, and I really like that. Back to that Terry McLaurin touchdown, we see a very, very similar thing here against the Saints. Single high safety, cover 3. We're going to see Kevyon Seymour try and have to play this with outside leverage. You can see it from the way his feet are shaded. He wants to play this outside. Jalen Mills is doing the same. But what the Saints are going to run is, again, another in-breaking route, a corner route from Thomas, and a curl just in front of Mills to try and hold him. The idea is you want the safety to bite, bring up that seam over the top. It's the one weakness of a cover 3. So Seymour does a great job of carrying Thomas, who then sells this vertical like he's going to run a post and just flips his hips. The second he flips them here, that's game over. Where it shouldn't be game over is that Jalen Mills has to understand the eyes of the quarterback, where he's meant to be. The safety's come down here. He's moved to take away that easy check down. A linebacker there in Singleton has got to gain depth. He's got to see the eyes of Taysom Hill, probably drop back a little bit into that check down. Mills has to keep his legs moving and just gain a bit of depth to take away this. Well, it's a touchdown. It's a home run. The second that ball's thrown, it's a touchdown. Good job to get his hands on there and try and break it up. Can't quite get there in the end, but there's nothing really you can expect him to do when you've got a safety that's biting down, your corner stopping here. It's the one weakness of a cover 3. It's not really on him. Did he get baited out of this coverage by Michael Thomas? Yeah, I'd kind of expect it though. He does a nice job recovering. He did make a mistake on the coverage. He did maybe give too much leverage, and that allows Thomas to breeze inside. But when you look at Jalen Mills there, just turn around at the end, I feel like there should have been a bit of extra help. Whether it's a safety, whether it's the other corner, like we saw from Seymour that last play, I don't know. But someone should have been there, I feel. It's the same kind of thing here where he ends up being burned a little bit by Kevyon Wallace's positioning. It's late in the game. The Saints are just flying everything vertical. The corners are just playing curl and flats. They're passing off deep routes to the safeties. You're in cover 2. They should be able to handle this. Alex Singleton is trailing deep. Okay, Alex Singleton is taking on this seam route. And what we see from Kevyon Wallace is that he comes down over the middle. He's not looking at the quarterback's eyes. Conversely, Marcus Epps is looking at the quarterback's eyes. He's moving inside. We're not seeing that from Wallace, who closes his hips, comes over the top to try and take away the middle. And what he leaves open is just a route that Seymour's got no business defending because he's passed it off. He's pushed him to the side, turned his hips, opened his eyes to the quarterback, and then there it goes. Like, Wallace has now got to rotate his entire body just to get back in a position, and he's not going to make a play. So not really his fault there. I understand what it looks like on TV. I'm not blaming Seymour for that. But in this next matchup, where his size is probably going to get picked on a lot because he is a shorter cornerback, he is now inexperienced in comparison to the other guys around him, at least this season, he's probably going to get bullied by the likes of Christian Kirk, by the likes of Larry Fitzgerald. It's going to take that discipline to stay alive on that island. And I think he's got enough to get through this game. I don't think he's the next great thing at cornerback. I'm not as high on him as I was with Trevor Williams earlier this offseason, which is probably saying something. His change of direction is pretty good. I like his explosiveness when breaking on the ball. He seems to tackle fairly confidently. He's a willing tackler, which is more than can be said for a few of the Eagles cornerbacks in recent memory. But I think he's got enough speed and IQ to just hang. All he's got to do is hang and hope there's safety help. The rest of that is going to hinge on guys like Kevyon Wallace. It's going to hinge on guys like Marcus Epps and more importantly Jim Schwartz to simplify this defense. But from what I saw, I don't think it was as bad as it looked on TV. I was really worried after that game where I thought, oh my god, he's been burnt 3 times now. It's all looking a little bit topsy-turvy. I don't think it's that bad. And while I, again, a little bit hesitant to jump on the Captain Cre'Von ship and give this guy the greatest serenade of all time, I do feel like there's a reason to be quietly confident he might be able to hold his own in this matchup. But what do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. From myself, Liam Jenkins, I'll see you soon.